it's your girl Nefarious, and today I've got a friend who's going to sew along with us. Want to guess who it is? So this little cutie patootie is a little pattern by Sew Desulne, and we are going to go step by step through the wonderful sew along cut and sew that K&A Custom Fabrics has put together. This little cutie is a plush fabric, it's almost like a minky. The 1/4 inch seam allowance is included throughout the entire project, so you don't have to account for anything. You just cut and you're going to be able to sew along right along with me. We do go through some steps, so we got some standard stitching, but we've also got a little bit of ladder stitching going on. We ladder stitch our eyebrows on, and we do some gathering, and we ladder stitch our tail on. So this is going to be such a fun sew along. So let's go ahead and get started.
So for the blue dog, what we are going to need is pretty basic. You're going to need a sewing machine. Preferably one that you could do a zigzag stitch or a straight stitch. It doesn't really matter. You're going to want some pins or clips. That works too. You're going to want some stuffing because, we're going to be stuffing it. You will want a hand needle and some thread for a ladder stitch to close her up. But then we can talk about pieces. So Blue Dog has eyebrows. In case you didn't know, there are actually 4 of those that we're going to need. Then Blue Dog has 2 sets of paws. Going to have 2 foot bottoms. Then Blue Dog is also going to have the muzzle back, which I kept the labels for you all. Going to have just the muzzle. Then you are going to have the front ears, as well as the back ears. You're going to need to have your eyes. You're going to need to have your bottom back and your bottom front. Then these are your head backs. And of course, you need your tail. For your foot bottoms, you're going to need your legs. For your eyeballs, you're going to need a forehead. You're going to need a body and a body back to put it all together. And this is the entire cutout for the sew along and cut and sew for the Blue Dog. So let's go ahead and get started. The first step that we are going to want is the forehead. What you're going to do is you're going to fold along this center dart here, just like this. And then you're going to sew at a 1/4 inch, and you're going to sew it down toward where this meets. All right. And this is just a dart, and we're going to sew that together where it opens up, and it'll look like this. So I'm going to go ahead, take us to this machine, and get that sewn up. So starting here about a 1/4 inch away, I'm just going to sew, backstitching really good down to this dart.
that's what it looks like so far. All right, let's go back to the table. For eye panels. Now, on these panels, you're going to see very faintly key point indicators. They're there to help you sew. So at the top you have a 1 and at the bottom there is a 2. Those coordinate with what's on the forehead. There is a 1 and there is a 2. What we need to do is we need to line that 1 and that 1 up together. And then pin this down. So that this 2 and that 2 are lined up together. Just like that. You're going to do the same thing for the other eye as well. Now, we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we are going to stitch these together at 1/4 inch. And you're going to do that for both of the eye panels onto the forehead. So let's go do that. And it's okay if you go over those eyes a little bit. The eyes need to be in the forehead. They need to be super close anyway, so that is okay. Let's go on and go back to the table. So next we need our front ears, not the back ears, the front ears. And again, what you're going to do is you're going to match the points up that are on the ear to the points that are on this piece. What you're just going to put the face side together like this and just pin them together. Once you get those pinned on, we are going to sew those on at 1/4 inch. Whoops. There she goes. All right, time to go back to the table. Next, you're going to need your body front. One thing I do want to call out is that you want to make sure that those slits that were on these sides are cut. That is where we are going to attach the arms when we finish those later. We are going to put these, we're going to match our points up face down. I'm going to go back. Actually, no, I lied. So I'm going to set that right here to the side, and we'll kind of do two things at once. The next thing we are going to want to go ahead and grab is you're going to want to grab the head back, which looks like these two pieces. And I have them on the wrong side on purpose. And then you're going to want your ear backs.
Now the ears are going to go on like this, and then they're going to be stitched on just like the other ones were. So I'm going to go ahead and pin these on. And there's that. Now we will take these three things and go to the sewing machine. So the first thing I'm stitching is the head. Sewing that at 1/4 inch. And I'm going to stitch our ears together. Now we are going to sew them together, right at those curves. Now, you do want to leave a little bit, so you'll see this dark mark here. That is what we are leaving as our turn hole. So I'm going to stitch really good here and stitch really good here, back stitching, but this is going to stay open. This is where we are going to do all our turning, and we'll ladder stitch that close at a different time. I'm going to go to the machine and stitch those real quick, and I'll be right back. Now, as you can see, we've got our turning hole ready to go. You're going to take your back body, make sure you've cut those slits that are on the artwork, and then you're going to match your numbers up, and you are going to sew those right sides together. Now I can go back to the table. Now put the bodies right sides together, lining up all the corners and the seams. We are now going to sew all the way around this at 1/4 inch you want to make sure that you leave these darts unsewn. Do not sew these darts. Leave them open. Nom. Nom, nom, nom. Do not sew those darts. So let's go. Taking my time, going around the curves, especially around the ears, over the forehead, and around the ears. Remember to not sew these, so I'll probably just backstitch really good here and here and here. Leave this open. Cute. So the next thing we need are the arms, and to do those we are just going to fold them over on themselves. And pin together. Okay, and then we are going to sew down the sides, around the thumbs, down to this right here. You're going to go up a little bit, so down, around, and up. Backstitching really good at the beginning and the end. Let's go do that. So the next thing we want to do after we stitch our arms is that we want to give a gentle snip in the seam allowance right where the thumb pivots. So right here, we want to give it a just snip in that seam allowance so it'll turn out really nice. And do that for both of them. And then you're going to turn it out. And then we are going to stuff the arm lightly. Now we have our inside out blue dog. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for these darts. I'm going to straight clip that string. Okay. So this is the back of the head. That's where we're turning. So this is the face. Okay. With the face, you're going to want this to match like in real life. So we're going to, I'll take my needle out. You're going to take it out and then you're going to slide it from the inside. So you have right sides together and you're going to put it in this dart hole. And then you are going to do a double-ended dart, which means I need to pull these closed. Pull this close so it looks like this. You want your triangles all to line up, But you also don't want any of the white showing on the outside. Okay, and then you'll do the same thing for the other side. For you, but I do have the arm sticking out roughly about 1/4 of an inch. That's entirely up to you. You can do that however you choose to do that. Now I'm going to take these to the machine and I'm going to sew these darts closed on both sides. Are good and tight. I'm going to sew them at 1/4 of an inch, maybe. Flip my pens around. Let's check this one. Hello! I am attached. I like warm hugs. All right, back to the table. For this next part, you need your legs and your foot bottoms. So what you're going to do is, just like your hands, you're going to fold these directly in half, right sides together. Now I'm going to take these to the machine. All I'm going to do is I'm going to sew at 1/4 of an inch all the way down this one side. That's all I'm going to do. I will be right back. Once you get these all stitched together, you're going to put right sides together and you're going to pin all the way around. But in case you were worried, there are numbers to help you line up. So that's a 16, that's a 16. And some went back-to-back clips, so we're gonna see how that works. At least on this. We're going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around in a circle. Take your time. Looks good. Now, just like we did with the arms, we're going to stuff these. Now you can stuff the feet really good. Just remember to not go too crazy with the feet or with the top of the leg. Now you need the bottom back and you need the bottom front. Now you can do this a couple different ways. You can put these on based and then put these together. That's entirely up to you. I kind of don't like to do all the running back and forth and back and forth. So I'm going to do it all in one step. So I am going to line the legs up with where they go on the back bottom, just like that. And then I'm going to take the top piece and I'm going to line it up with where it goes. Then I'm going to sew across that at a 1/4 inch stitch. And then that will...
Now we got that part.
So this next part, we have to put our bottom part and our top part together. So you're going to want to make sure you're matching those numbers up. So we have a 19 and a 19. So I'm going to stick that right in here. And I'm going to line those numbers up just like that. Going to get your feetsies in there. I'm going to do the back one real quick. Just like that. I'm going to line my seams up. Now you're going to sew at a 1/4 inch all the way around. We're going to want to trim off any excess seam allowance that's in really tight areas. The ears are a really good place, and the tip of the ears are another one. We don't want those to be super bulky, so I'm going to give those a little bit of a trim. Okay, and then we're going to turn him completely out. We're going to turn the dog completely out. Now we are going to make sure that all of our points are where they're supposed to be. So this is where having a turning tool would probably be helpful. And then once we do that, we're going to start stuffing with plush. So I will start with the ears first. You want to have enough plush in there so that they stay pointy and they don't get flat. So the next step is we're going to ladder stitch, at which point you will need needle and thread. I've knotted one end. What we are going to do is we're going to ladder stitch this seam closed. So I am going to start from behind at the base of the back here. I'm going to tuck my string in. And then I'm just going to go over 1/8 of an inch, staying in the seam allowance, and I'm just going to go through here. I'll pull through, and then we'll go straight down into the opposite side. And then I'm going to go straight over 1/8 of an inch, pull through, pulling tight, I'm going to go up straight across, over 1/8 of an inch, pull through. I'm going to go across over 1/8 of an inch, pull through. Let's see if I can get you closer. Nope. I wonder. Okay. I'm going to go straight across, which I'm in the seam allowance, and then I'm going to rotate my needle, go over 1/8 of an inch, and pull through. Just like that. Then we'll go straight across, rotate my needle, 1/8 of an inch, pull through. All while staying in the seam allowance. Forcing myself to go slow is ridiculously hard. And then you're going to stick the needle in to your stitching, and you're going to pull it about 1 inch to 2 inches away. So you're hiding that knot. It's going to pull it right in. So now you can't see your knot at all. And then you're just going to slip your thread. Now Bluey is all closed up and ready on for the next part. Our next piece is going to be the muzzle. Now, what we're going to want to do first is, as you can see, there are a lot of darts here. We are going to want to sew these first 2 top darts first, and then sew these 3 darts. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this over, lining up the edges. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold this one over, lining up the edges. I will take care of lining up the rest of the edges at the machine after I sew these up. So let's go on and get started. So we have our first 2 darts ready to sew. They're the top darts. We're going to go ahead and sew those, and then I'm going to sew the middle dart, and then I'm going to sew the 2 side darts, but I'm going to do the top ones first. Alright, there's that. Now I'm going to sew the center one, lining up my edges, still at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now I'm going to do the sides. Side out. And then you're going to grab the muzzle back piece. That's just a, I don't know, like a weird triangle. And it does have some marker points. They're a little faint, but they do have it. And they're going to line up with the marker pieces on the nose. So you're going to have right sides together and you're just going to line those up. Then we are going to sew all the way around at a 1/4 inch of stitch. Nefarious, that is so great. You have made a fabulous fuzzy beanbag, right? I promise there is method to this madness. Let's go to the table and get mad together. So in the time of me literally moving 5 feet, all I did was clean up the extra strings that were hanging off. Now what we are going to want to do is on this flat piece, we're going to want to go right here in the center. And we are going to want to make a snip. Nothing crazy though, don't go too crazy. That might be a little small. And you're going to push your nose through that hole. Yeah, I know that's it. Push your corners out. Push your top of your nose out. And there's that. Now we're going to take some stuffing and we're going to stuff it through the same exact hole. So there's that. It looks pretty good. Now we're going to take our doll, which at this point kind of resembles one of those creepy voodoo dolls, and you're going to align this literally right between the eyes. Look, she's happy to see you. And then you are going to ladder stitch all the way around the muzzle, securing it. So I want to get my needle. Alright, nose is secured. I'm going to tie a knot now. Alright, and so to hide it, I'm going to take it through the seam allowance here. And I'm going to go up through that seam allowance there. I'm going to pull it through. Knot is now hidden. And string is caught. Our bluey looks like a bluey. Look how happy that is. They have a face. Alright, these are our final pieces. So what you're going to do is you are going to put right sides together for the tail. And you're going to clip together.
And then we are going to put our eyebrow pieces right sides together. Grab some clips. Now, whoops. For the tail, we are going to sew down this side, following our loop-de-loops here, and up to here. Back stitching really good. We are not sewing this closed yet. And then for the eyebrows, we are going to sew probably a good 80% away, but you want to leave probably about as big a hole as you left when you cut in the back of the muzzle, so that we can turn these inside out and stuff them. So let's go to the machine and take care of that. I'm going to go ahead and we'll start with the tail. And we go back to the table. Gonna turn these inside or right side out. You can add a little bit of stuffing to these if you want. I'm going to give it a shot. Mine are pretty poofy as it is. Alright, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to ladder stitch these closed. And then we're going to go on to the step after that. So I'm going to go ladder stitch these. So after you get your eyebrows ladder stitch closed, you're going to want to attach them to your dog doll. So just like we ladder stitch the muzzle on, we're going to do the exact same thing to the eyebrows. You're going to want to put you're going to want them about 1/4 of an inch above the eye. So you can always use some pins to kind of help place it. I'm actually going to use pins to kind of help hold it in place so I can sew it around. Puppy dog went and got some piercings and didn't tell anybody. So I'm going to, just like I did with the muzzle, I'm going to ladder stitch all the way around the eye, and I'm going to be using the seam to hide my stitches. Okay, just like we did with the muzzle. Okay, let me get some thread on my needle here. Now to start this off, I'm going to go underneath . And then
Just simply ladder stitch. So after we flipped our tail out, you need to stuff it lightly, and then you're going to take your needle and thread, and we're going to sew a gathering stitch around the top. And if you've not ever sewn a gathering stitch, it's literally where you weave on your needle the fabric about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch, going all the way around the top. Because what's going to happen is that we are going to pull our thread, and then we are going to cinch it closed like this. Once you get it cinched closed, you're going to want to sew a couple knots in it to just get it to stay put. And then tie a knot in it. So once we get the tail finished and Bluey ready, we're going to flip her over, and then we are going to, you're going to want to center this above this bottom seam. All right. So the best way might be to pin this in place just a little bit, a little bit like we did the eyebrows, just so it doesn't go anywhere. All right, that looks pretty okay. Then we are going to ladder stitch all the way around, securing it.
So this has been a lot of fun, and I am so grateful that you came along on this journey tonight with me and my little blue friend. So when she is all finished, she stands about 12 inches tall. Well, stands, lays, however you want to set her up. She's about 12 inches tall and about 6 inches wide. Your snuggly wuggliness is all up to you. So for now, I can't wait to see all of your makes, all of your fun little friends on the K&A Custom Fabric groups and out in the wild. So make sure you're tagging your girl Nefarious. And for now, bye-bye.